is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Highlighted Business Podcast for all the business people in the world. And today I'm sharing the highlight with two of my longtime friends, Phil and Keri Woodall from the Library of, all the way down in Alabama. They're joining us virtually today. Phil, Keri, how are you guys doing?
We're doing great. How are you, Chandler?
I'm
in
well.
Alabama, so roll Tide.
Well, go Dogs. Keri, you should have warned him before the episode. I know you and I worked together for a long time before you're doing what you're doing now.
He's a big Georgia fan.
Oh, we should have done this podcast like 3 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, the least healthy part of my personality is the Georgia football team. It's not good. I would love, I obviously know you guys, and I would love for you guys to take a couple minutes and just sort of tell everybody who you are and how you got to where you're at now.
Yeah. I'm Keri, and Chandler, I obviously know you from our Ramsey days. We were on the Entree Leadership team together on the marketing team. So that was a lot of fun getting to work with you there. And I know this guy because he's my husband. And together we own the Library of.
Yep. So we got married coming up on 1 year. So March 13th, 2022, we got married. I founded the Library of in 2018. So my background, I actually have a mechanical engineering degree. A lot of people here in North Alabama are kind of in the STEM field. People who are interested in math and sciences end up working for a place called Redstone Arsenal, which is kind of a military Department of Defense installation here in Huntsville, super connected with like the Army and then also like the NASA and space things. That's why Huntsville is called the Rocket City. So I kind of backdoored my way into a creative industry and found myself making marketing and training videos for the Army as a contractor. Found out that I loved creative work a lot more than traditional engineering work and kind of just jumped in with both feet. Fast forward over about a 15-year career doing that. I finally started doing some side work. The side work started getting more attention and kind of started dominating what I was doing for my day job. And so I officially formed the LLC in 2018 and went full-time in 2019 and haven't looked back. And then last year, once we got married, she started out freelancing, and then eventually it became so apparent that, she had so much to offer in the business and we had a need. And so eventually she just ended up full-time just in the business with me.
Yeah. So. When we realized we wanted to get married, we talked about working in the business together, but we also wanted to be very cognizant of, our number one priority is being husband and wife. So we didn't want to rush into being co-owners of a business too soon. But we knew we wanted to join forces at some point. We just were kind of waiting on timing. And then a couple months after we got married, it's like, you know what, this feels right. I was having a little bit more capacity in my schedule. And, we just decided it was time for me to jump into the Library of. So.
We also acquired another production company that's local. One of my best friends, JP, had Orangebeard Films. We were doing a lot of work together. We decided we just need to do this all the time. So he joined the Library of, and all of his clients joined the team as well. And so it's like we needed the extra help.
There was a lot more work.
Yeah, as far as PMing projects and stuff. And so it just kind of made sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I firsthand got to witness Keri keeping us all on track more times than not. And so I can, not that it's my opinion matters at this point because you married her, Phil, but, Andrew, she's a business partner. But, yeah, that makes a ton of sense for me. I totally see that. So there's a bunch of different ways we can go now because now we're talking about, startup culture. We're talking about family business at this point, and now we even have acquisition. And then on top of all of that, you guys are marketing storytelling experts. So I just need a minute to sort of regroup here and figure out which way
we dabble in a lot of things.
I love it. This is now I'm thinking, man, I only booked an hour for this. We might have to push it out to a Joe Rogan style 3-hour deal. Yeah. Well, let's start with the family aspect of it a little bit, because I know you guys have only been married a year, but I think a lot of people, I have experience in a family business. I did it with my parents, so it was a little bit different. My wife wasn't too involved. So I would love to know what that experience has been like. And Phil, for you, you were freelancing for a long time and then officially doing it for 3 or 4 years, it sounds like, and then you brought not only a partner in, but now a new wife. Like, just like, what has been the good parts of that, and then tell me some of the learning, quote unquote, learning moments from the last year.
Yeah, there's definitely been lots of learning for me. I mean, I don't have my family doesn't have a background or a legacy of family business or being entrepreneurs or anything like that. Most of the people in my family are tradesmen working with their hands, whether it be a machinist or welding and kind of blue collar. And so I was already kind of the oddball with being an engineer or whatever and going kind of in the more academic route. But then starting a business was a lot of learning for me. And thankfully there's a few people in my life that I've met maybe through church who've been business owners themselves, who, as soon as I knew that I wanted to go down this route, I was like, all right, if I'm going to take this jump, then number one, I'm going to listen to as many podcasts, read as many books as I possibly can, and I'm going to find some people in my life that can mentor me. And so that was kind of gave me the courage to do it. And then it's been a lot of just trial and error. And so as far as bringing on more people onto the team, that's probably been the biggest challenge, is learning how to delegate, learning how to take my grubby little hands off of every little thing in the business, and letting other people, contribute, and actually having the business grow and thrives in a way that I could never do in my own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like when I came on board, he was still doing so many things himself. He's we're both a bit of a perfectionist. We're both Enneagram 1s, which is interesting, but he has a particular way of doing things, which is why the work is excellent. But also I knew if we're going to scale this thing, he can't do everything. And it's not healthy too, for him to have to be working so many hours a week, especially as we're building a team. One thing we talk about a lot is delegation and time management, and trusting people to take on new tasks so that you can be freed up to do the things that only you can do. Mm-hmm. It's the whole thing of working on the business instead of in the business. Easier said than done. And that's an ongoing thing that we still deal with. But I think when I came on board, a lot of what I was intentional about doing, and I still try to do, is what can I take off your plate? Mm-hmm. Because you're pulled in a million directions, and what can I build this proposal for you? How can I help support you, but then also support the team and make sure that we're delegating the right things out and keeping projects moving forward. So that's kind of how we've worked together in that capacity.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I love that. I think I don't remember. My dad taught me about this way back when, but he's like, when you form a new team, there's 4 different phases. It's storming, norming, forming, and excelling or something. I don't know. I butchered that, but it's the initial storming and forming phases are always really interesting to me, because this isn't when you're building teams like that, it's not something that just hits and it stays consistent forever. You have to constantly be going back and working on it. And so, Phil built the company to a certain level, and that was sort of a normalized, formidable process. And then all of a sudden you add all these new people in and you get ready to grow. And now we're back to the storming and forming phases. And now we're repeating the process all over again. So in the same time, you're all right, I'm going to get married. And then I'm also going to get business married to new people and acquire a company. Walk me through that. I mean, are you just you're you know what? I'm just going all in on commitment this year. I'm committing to people. I'm going in.
It definitely is very crazy, and it sounds even more crazy than it even probably was. It just kind of happened. I don't know. I mean, I kind of, one of the things that I've learned about being a business owner is just how quickly things shift, how adaptable, I think one of the things that you had asked me, she was, okay, I'm gonna back up just a little bit. She was writing a LinkedIn post one day and was like, what would you, what would
How
you,
have you changed most
Yeah.
since being a business
yeah.
owner?
And so I didn't know that I was being prodded for a LinkedIn post for this one. And I said the word supple.
You gotta be careful.
And
what
then,
you say.
and then she put it on LinkedIn. I was like, I probably wouldn't have used that word because it just sounds too pretentious or something. But it's true. It is true. It's like you have to learn to be so much more adaptable, so much more, go with the flow. Like I don't know. There's a tension between like taking this thing in a clear direction forward, like that needs clear direction, but also at the same time, the other like guardrail is just like being, supple enough to kind of let things happen. And it's like, oh, would I have chosen to get married and have an acquisition? And while I'm still trying to grow my business, like, no, I wouldn't have, if God would have given me a vote at the time, I wouldn't have went that direction. Right. But it's just kind of the way it was laid out. It made the most sense. And I just had to try to find the courage to say, okay, I'm doing this with people that I trust, that I know that are going to be in there with me. And there's lots of things maybe I haven't figured out, but it may be difficult things, but it's I'm doing it with the right people. I'm doing it with the person that I love. So I know that's going to work out. And I'm doing it with a good friend who I know is going to be great in business with us. So I may not have everything figured out, but the main thing, right, is that I know it's the right time and I know I'm doing it with the right people. And so, I mean, all the details are going to work themselves out because those main things are kind of there. Yeah.
the right words too. The supple is definitely going to be the name of this podcast. I don't know how.
For sure. I can't
you won't live that one down.
Never.
Oh man.
Well, I love that, and I think you guys have a very similar story to a lot of business owners we end up talking with, where it's like, you sort of get into this passion thing for you, Phil, and you went from engineer to creative type, which is a fascinating jump. I mean, I think we're all creative, but that's truly a labor of love to go in and like self-taught and learn how to do all those things. But then you get to this level, and now you're doing the thing, and you guys are growing, and I think you're going to continue to crush it, and I love that. And so I love the building of businesses, and we could definitely stay on that topic for the next 3 hours. But I do want to talk about some marketing stuff today, and I love having you guys on because, at High Beam, our specialty is really the amplification of messaging. Like guys like you will come to us with a video for a client, and then we'll actually go find the audience, target them, run the ads, return on ad spend, yada, yada, all the things.
Right.
But I'd love to go back a little bit to where you guys are sitting on the marketing plan side of things. And when we talk about making videos for companies or telling stories for companies, you and I, we were talking just a little bit ago, and you said that authenticity is overrated. And so I got to start there because, like you said, everybody today is like, you got to be your authentic self. You got to talk authentically. You got to be authentic, da, da, da. And so I'd love for you to unpack for us, Phil, and Keri, you jump in as well. Like, why is authenticity overrated?
Yeah, it's kind of the thing that I say that probably at first glance is people kind of would ruffle their feathers because it is a thing that, like, you see creatives, it's kind of a rallying cry. Like, you have to be authentic, you have to be true to yourself. And those things are all true if you're making art for like a passion project, or if it's a hobby, or if you're just doing it for love of the game. That's awesome. But we are paid by clients and customers and businesses to drive their brand and their voice forward. And so we service a lot of different types of clients that have a lot of different types of creative needs. And so everything we do has to have empathy. I have to be able to have creative that is in service to their target audience, to who their audience is. And it doesn't need to be, I tell clients all the time, it's like, I'm not interested in you funding my passion project. Because what excites me is figuring out what their audience would resonate with and then going and creating content that serves that. So I'd rather be empathetic than authentic when it comes to the work that we're doing.
Yeah. And kind of the number one thing that we focus on when we're talking with a client is like in our discovery process is who is the audience? Who are we reaching here? Because that impacts everything. That impacts all of our creative decisions from, what is the script going to be? How are we talking to them? What music do we use?
Mm-hmm.
What lighting do we use? How are we casting it? All of those things are in service to the overall strategy, which first and foremost has to answer the question of who is it for?
Yep.
So that's kind of where we start.
Yeah, I think the three main things that like we're always driving for, like when we're in one of those discovery calls with a potential client, is the three things we want to answer is who is it for, what change do you seek to make, and what is the promise? And so it's like if you can get really clear about like who it's for, like Seth Godin has a great quote about there's no such thing as writer's block, that we just don't know who we're talking to. And it's like, Chandler, I know who I'm talking to right now. I'm not stumbling over my words because I know that I'm talking to someone who's in the industry, right? And so like there's maybe phrases or jargon that I can use with you that maybe if I was having a conversation with, say, my mom, who doesn't know anything about really this world, I would not dumb down, but like I would use more elementary, language.
Different analogy.
If I was communicating someone that's more general, if I was talking to JP, our DP, and I was talking about video stuff, then I'd be like in the weeds, super technical, talking about picture profiles and LUTs and log footage and bit rates and all those things. And maybe if you don't know much about video, you're like, that's all over my head. Mm-hmm. But somebody in the industry could go all day long on those topics. And so if you know who you're talking to and who the audience is, like number one, then from a content idea, like, okay, what is the script? What is the music? Like, what is the tone of what we're wanting to create? Mm-hmm. And then what change do you seek to make? We all as potential customers have a worldview that we're a lens that we're seeing the world through. And then a good brand comes along and disrupts that worldview and offers us something that we didn't even know exists. Every day we're scrolling and we see something, we're like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know this existed. And then you send it to the person that maybe you were having a conversation with, and you're like, this is just what we were talking about. Now that is awesome marketing, right? Because some thoughtful marketer went out there and saw me and what I needed, and I had a way that I was approaching the world, and they came and disrupted that in a positive way and brought me something that solves a problem that I have. Mm-hmm. And anytime you can go out as a marketer and find that target audience and be real clear about the problem you can solve for them, and then finally the promise is like you deliver, like you say, I can solve this problem for you, and then you deliver it, you will never have a marketing problem. Mm-hmm.
No, that's good. I always approach things with marketing. I'm like looking at the company and I'm like, this company is a person, and avatar, whatever word you want to use there. But that is a person, even though it's a company, it's a brand. It is a person with size, shape, characteristics, personality traits, all the things. What you're talking about is perfect, because if you as a marketer approach that person, and you as, let's say me, Chandler, I'm like me and all my personality, and I just apply that to the other person, that's intrusive. And then it's also going to come off as inauthentic for the brand. Mm-hmm. So I think It's not that its authenticity is wrong. It's authenticity from a certain perspective. Like, who are we taking on? The best marketers know how to get into the shoes of their clients or their brands or the people that they're actually going out and supporting, right? And that's what it is. You guys are basically just becoming like, whatever defense contractor, like let's say it's one of those guys as a client, right? You're putting their company clothes on your organization, and now you're taking all your skill sets and you're applying it to their look, tone, and feel. And then that's how you can actually get the things to connect, because you're 100% right. When you put something out there that's good for you. We were talking earlier and you were like, you kind of want to shoot things a little darker in the shadows, a little bit of a, I need to see the Phil Woodall personal portfolio book. That seems fascinating to me. Yeah. But like, if you apply that and you all of a sudden have a defense contractor, I mean, I don't know. It kind of feels like maybe that's a 1980s bad guy movie, and that would be not so great for for them dealing with contractors all over the world, right?
Right.
That was, I don't know if I told you this, Phil, but that's what I did in the Air Force. I was in contracting, so I spent government money
Oh,
on
wow.
hiring contractors and all that. Yeah, so we've seen plenty of sizzle reels on what this product is and who they do it for and all the things. So yeah, you guys,
Oh, yeah.
it's much
You're
needed
familiar.
work for
You
sure.
know that world.
Yeah. So
Sorry for your loss.
talking about yeah, well, it was a fun time. I spent about $50 million before I was 22, so that was a lot of fun for sure. But I do want to go back to the storytelling piece of things for you guys. Like when you guys are thinking about, all right, we've got the right mindset, we're going to be authentic for the brand now. We know we have the right team in place to be able to technically execute the plan, but we have to put a story together. And Keri, I'd love to know your thoughts on this because you are definitely the copywriting pro here. Like, what is it you're looking for in a story? Because we have a certain amount of time. We're not making like a 3-hour Star Wars movie here. We might have maybe 30 seconds, right? And, you know, how are you laying that out to make sure it lands as a customer story piece?
Yeah, I mean, that's always the tricky part is like, okay, you know, maybe they need it to be 30 seconds and okay, we gotta tell a really succinct story in that amount of time. And so I really do think it goes back to like, okay, who's our audience and like, what is the problem we're trying to solve for them? And how can we address that problem in that short amount of time? And not be feature focused. We always talk about like, we want to focus on the problem that they have and how this brand is intersecting with them and providing a solution. It's about telling a story that connects with a particular audience. It's not going to connect with everyone. It's going to connect with this one audience that we've identified, and it's going to connect on an emotional level. So I think that's a lot of the times what we try to do is like figure out like how, you know, what's the tone that we want to set and how can we connect with like the heart, and then, you know, once it hits them in the heart, then they can rationalize it, you know, logically with the head.
Yeah, because I think what's the famous quote? It's like, you know, we make decisions based off of emotion and internal problem, and then we rationalize it with logic. Yeah, and that's where the features come in. And I think the other thing is like, how do you do that in 30 seconds? Number one, you get super clear, right? And that's one of the things this girl is always preaching is clarity, right? Is being really clear and really focused on what you're saying, and not trying to dive into every single feature, right? Like what is the main pain point of the target audience, and alleviating that. And then, you know, with a more robust campaign, like you can start filling out those other features with parts of the other collateral, right?
What are some of the questions you're asking your clients to help them uncover that specific problem? Because I'm seeing a theme here. It's like, hey, we got to have real clear direction on day one about what problem we're solving for, because otherwise this video is going to go 50 different ways. Like, what are you talk us about those conversations? Like, what questions are you asking? Like, how do we really suss out that problem we're trying to solve for in that video?
Yeah. In an ideal world, when we can like actually sit down with a client and dig into like the strategy and discovery with them, we like to do the story brand framework. So Donald Miller's framework for story. So that follows a couple of, you know, it's a whole framework. So it kind of walks you through the questions to ask. So we'll sit with a client and, well, first, before we even start the story brand framework, we ask them like, who is your best fit customer? Who is the customer that you are trying to reach? Because it's not everyone. It's think about the specific type of customer that you want more of. Like if you can think of all of your customers and the ones that like really get it and appreciate what you have to offer and don't, you know, don't complain about pricing and all those things, because there are some customers you probably would rather not be customers. So it's like, don't think of them. Think of the best customers that you have. It's like, you want to clone them. So we want more of those types of customers. And so we have our clients, you know, we do a strategy session with them. We say, okay, think about those best fit customers. And we write like on the whiteboard, all of their kind of characteristics, so that's top of mind for them as we're walking them through these frameworks. So then we go into, Okay, with story brand, who is the character? What do they want? And so we list all of those things out. And then we go into the problem. So we identify problem, a few different ways. So internal, external, and then the philosophical problem. So it's interesting to like sit with clients and like kind of have them reflect on those things, and like peel back the layers, because they know it's in there because they engage with their customers all the time. They just have to have the permission and the capacity to reflect on those characteristics of the people that they want to serve. So that's kind of how that we approach digging into who the audience should be, and then also like how are we positioning that brand as the guide? That's another keystone of the story brand framework. And so many brands make it about themselves, like they're the hero, but really the customer is the hero and the brand is the guide. So we just try to remind our clients of that approach, and that's how we're going to kind of walk them through this process of creative and storytelling, and just keeping the customer as the focus.
No, that's good. I had a question that came up in my mind though while you guys were talking, and you were talking about TV commercials, and so much of my world is on digital, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, God help us all, TikTok. Like, so when you're sitting down with a client, are you crafting stories depending on platform that it's going out on the technical side of things, or does that matter?
There's some very practical reasons in our world why we do ask them like, where do you envision this content living? There's some practical reasons why, because if it's going to be on TV and if it's going to be on broadcast and it's going to be a national campaign, then the way we hire talent, or the music that we license, or like, do we have to do custom music? All of those change because the way we would pay talent, voiceover artists, music is all dependent.
Yeah, the licensing is different
on where that, so from a practical standpoint, we definitely always ask those questions. I think it sometimes depends on who we're talking to. So like if we're talking to like a marketing director, they pretty much have set like, yes, here's where we're going to deliver this to, and then this is what we're doing with it. Whereas sometimes if we're working maybe directly with the owner, they're just more like, hey, we know we got to be doing something. And then they're looking to us and like, you're the experts. You tell us like what platforms this should be. And so it's like, I like that. I like being an authority in that area, but also like, I think sometimes when we're working with owners of companies, it also becomes really challenging because for other reasons, because they're so busy, a lot of times getting things approved becomes that much more challenging. But yeah, I think today, like if we're going to do a TV commercial, almost always they want it for social. Also, they want it in Reels format. So we're all the time shooting for wide, but also having to have a reframe for 9:16, because everybody just wants it.
Yeah,
that's just so interesting to me. That I get the efficiency of having one shot and being able to crop it down and do all the things, but what we see time and time again is that a piece of content that looks like and feels like it should be on TV will probably do pretty well on TV because it was built and made for that. But the minute you try to like repurpose it for social media and it doesn't feel like it belongs there, all of a sudden it back to the authenticity thing. It's not authentic to that platform, and people just, they look at it, they go ad, and then we see the CPMs, the cost per 1,000 views just or go way up, and it's always crazy. And we always try to, like, when we're working with creative agencies like you guys, we're trying to tell our clients like, hey, spring for whatever the additional authentic making package is, because it's going to be worth the money just in saved ad spend. You're either going to spend it now on the production and be happier, or you're going to spend it later on the amplification and still not be able to guarantee results. So That's good. I like that a lot. So the question we try to ask everybody, and this is a little bit of a wild card question, but think about where you're at in your business right now, the two of you guys. If I could 10x any part of your budget and you could go solve a problem for your business specifically, like what part of the budget would you 10x and what would you actually go do with the money?
Well, there's some like practical things that we would do, well, that we are planning on doing. Like we need a new production van. So that's like a very practical thing. I don't know, like studio space.
We're having an
Yeah, I mean,
impromptu
I guess in video production, I mean, you know, we could, you know, just gear.
Yeah.
We could do that. I think if I was going to try to 10x our business, the way I would do that is if I could magically wave a wand and 10x everything, I would give ourselves a little more bandwidth during the week to create content for our brand.
Yeah.
And elevate our status, because I feel like the more you're perceived as an expert, right, and that's part of what you're doing right here, Chandler, right, is the more you can elevate your own status, it attracts better clients. You have more authority, more of a voice. We know that the less wrangling you have to do on like the trust me, you know, just trust me. The more you can elevate your status, the more you don't even have to say that. You just
have that authority.
You just have that authority, right? And it's proven with everything that you're putting out there on your own platform. And so I would say, give us more free time so that we can start devoting the time to do that ourselves, right? And then that would elevate our status, make us in a better position to then get better clients. And then on the back end of that, the production value of all of our stuff would go up because we'd have bigger budgets. We'd be able to afford more stuff. So I would do it do it that way.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Personal brand awareness, having a large brand is always better than having a not known brand. It solves so many problems, and people try to overcomplicate it, especially in a world where you can measure everything. They're like, well, who looked at it, who clicked on it, who did the thing? And I'm like, look, if 1 million people know who you are, the chances your ideal client is one of the million and you got enough of them to grow your business is very high. So you should just go do it and then worry about it later. No, that's good. It's good. It's good challenge for me because I need to get back to creating content. It's what's funny is we're both in the marketing field, right? And the old adage is the painter's house is never painted. And that's us as a marketing firm. And it's we
talk
do
about
it
that
when we
all
do
the
it.
time.
Yeah, I bet if I went to your website, like how many great videos are on your website right now? Like I need to go look. It's the painter's paradox, right? Like it's just like you're just so busy doing it for other people. Like what are you going to do in your free time? Go paint your house? Like it doesn't even, it blows you away, but that's so true.
100%.
Well, I appreciate you guys joining me on the show today. I'll make sure that we link up the library of and you guys' LinkedIn profiles. Is there anything you want to leave everybody with before we let you get out of here?
I don't know. You think of anything?
Just try to put me on the spot.
Just follow the guys on LinkedIn and then send them direct messages harassing them when they're not making content like they committed to doing.
I know. Yeah. I need it. I had it like I was posting like every day and then I kind of dropped off. So it takes intentionality for sure.
Yeah. But, I would just say, you know, I think the moral of the story is like, if you're a business owner, if you're in marketing, like wherever you find yourself listening to this podcast, it's like, yes, you should be offering your contribution, right? But fight with everything within you not to create noise. Like our world has enough noise in it. Don't just try to see what someone else is doing and be like, oh, I'm supposed to do that. But just think about your target audience and like the problems that you really want to solve for them, the thing that gets you excited in the morning, and just try to create something that adds value to their life, that adds value to the problem you're trying to solve for them, and give that freely and give it generously. and just fight with everything inside of you not to create noise.
Mm-hmm.
Social media today has enough noise.
Mm-hmm.
We need good contributions out there. And I think there's lots of good people that see the noise, right? And they think like, oh, I'm not going to get on there because like that's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, have the courage to get out there. And I'm preaching to myself right now. Have the courage to do it, right? Because our world needs more good, thoughtful contributions, and there's enough of the charlatans out there creating the noise, right?
That's right.
100% agree. And the one thing I will add, because it's a little bit of a soapbox for me, is don't prejudge your own quality. Like the things that you think are good is not what the market's going to think is good. And you will sit there and you will mess around. I made this video for Instagram the other day where I like stitched a Burger King thing, and it was like this dumb skit from Burger King. Anyways, this thing has like 160,000 views, and I think it's real dumb. And if I was doing it on a quality base, or if I showed you, Phil, and you were like, man, this video is rough, like you should definitely not post this, and like I'd have missed out on 160,000 views. So like quality is always subjective. Just I think intentionality, like you're talking about right there, like there's enough noise, there's enough volume out there. We don't need more. We need more better intentioned people trying to make a positive difference. And I do love that. Well, guys, thank y'all so much for joining me. Thank you to everybody listening. We'll see you next week.